So today we begin a lesson on the quadratic formula. And if you look there at what this is going to be all about, that formula, don't be worried, don't be intimidated. It will always be provided to you on a test, on a quiz, or on a Regents. So that formula is not one you have to memorize. And let me tell you, there's a lot to it. So for equations that are in standard form, descending order, we have x to the second followed by, oh, not again. All right, so the quadratic formula is when we have an equation that is in standard form. And so when it's in standard form, it puts it in alphabetical order. So the number in front of x is a, or x squared that is. The number in front of x to the first is b, and the number that's all by itself is c. So let's remember ABC when it's in descending order. And we are looking for zero values. We've done this a few different ways. We've done this with factoring. We've done this with the calculator. Today we do it with the quadratic formula. And why is it? Well, that's because it deals with square roots, and that's been the topic we've been talking about most recently. Okay, so let's get right into it. Don't worry, it's not going to be that bad. All we're doing is kind of identifying A, B, and C. We'll substitute, we'll use our calculator, and we'll be fine. Okay, so here we have x squared plus 8x plus 3. Might want to put the 1 in front of x squared to remind yourself that there is a number there. So if this is in descending order by exponent, 2, then 1, then no exponent, then it's in alphabetical order by numbers, by letters that is. So we call this A, we call this B, and we call this C. So we have identified the values for A, B, and C. A is simply 1, B is 8, and C is 3. Okay? So once you have identified the numbers you're going to use, then we go to the formula, which I've put on this page for myself. It's on your page at the top, and we just simply substitute the values, okay? So we are finding the zero values, we're finding the x values, and the first thing we do is we substitute in b. Now b is always negative, so if it's positive 8, it's going to change to a negative because of this sign right here. And then we keep it going with the plus minus, which we have seen previously, the square roots, okay, of b squared. So that is 8 to the second power. We might want to get used to putting this number in parentheses. Oh, yes, when I didn't. Thank you. Thank you for somebody using their microphone to tell me. I can't always see the chat, so using your microphone is the best way. All right, I think we're good now. Yes, perfect. Yep. So I'll let you get that down. First number into the square root. I then do minus and then 4. All right, so that's a part of the equation. Now the a term is going to be 1 in this case, so we are definitely going to use parentheses to show multiplication. The c term was 3. We close parentheses and the square root. And then below this, it's 2 times the a term, and this is easy, 2 times 1. And then it all goes to order of operations. Have I said this before? Order of operations are important? Well, I think I have, because it is so important. So we look to the square roots. We kind of think about what's in the square root. We want to simplify that first. And I obviously have exponents, which is the e in PEMDAS. So I do the exponents first, and 8 times 8 is 64. Now, because there is a subtraction sign that separates the next, I can also do this next step. I can multiply all these numbers together right here. So 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 times 3 is 12. So I've got 12 in the square root, and then I have 2 times 1. I take care of that. Okay? Like I said, there's not a ton of room on the notes, so hopefully you found a sheet of paper, and if you did not, you're going to think about maybe transferring this to a sheet of paper, because it's going to be a few steps. Next thing that we want to do is simplify what's in the square root. 64 minus 12 is going to be 52, and this is still divided by 2. Now I need to simplify that numerator. I need to try to work up top before I think about dividing by 2. Now 52 is a number that I'm going to need to try to factor to simplify. Okay, so 1 and 52. 2 goes into 52 because it's even. This would be 26 times. 3 does not go into 52. 4 goes into 52, and that would be 13 times. And guess what? That, my friends, is a perfect square. And it is going to be the largest perfect square that goes successfully into 52. So why do I bring that up? Well, last class we talked about how we simplify square roots by changing this to the square root of 4 times the square root of 13. All right, so we want to rewrite this with a perfect square out in front. Now, we take the square root of 4 because we actually can do that. The square root of 4 is regular old 2. Square root of 13 is an irrational number, never ending, never terminating, so better off leaving it like that. Okay? I'm still dividing by 2 when I'm waiting. Well, guess what? The numerator has been completely simplified. I can't get it any lower than that. For some of you thinking that we should multiply this right here like we did last class, that is not the case. We don't want to multiply because we're actually adding and subtracting. This is not the same as what we saw last time when we were multiplying by that number. So this is addition or subtraction. And what I now do is I divide this by 2. Okay, I divide the 8 by 2 and the 2 by 2. I don't need to divide the square root of 13. That's not, a number that we're used to working with. So I divide these by 2, and this will end up at -4 plus or minus 1, because I'm dividing 8 by 2 and getting -4. 2 divided by 2 is 1, square root of 13. And there you have it. So again, we want to identify the A, the B, and the C. And when it's in descending order, x squared, x to the first, and then no variable, it's right in alphabetical order, A, B, and C. So the A value is 2 this time, the B value, take the sign in front, -9, and the C value is 4. Okay, so from here, I didn't lose audio. Okay, good. I stepped on my microphone cord. I substitute those 3 letters in for the letter for the formula. All right, we're finding x values. It's a -b, so it's a negative already, and the b value is a -9, a double negative. Okay, so that's important to see that happen sometimes. We're doing the plus or minus square root of b squared. Now, I kind of talked to you about this last time. Good idea to always put that number in parentheses, because when I raise it to the second power, that changes things just slightly, or in some cases quite impactfully. A is 2, C is 4, and all of this is being divided by twice the A value. A value in this case is 2. The order of operations. And so this is going to give me x equaling a negative is a +9 plus or minus square roots. Well, 9 is inside the parentheses as -9 squared. So that's negative times a negative. And 9 times 9 is 81. So a +81. And then we got 4 times 2, 8. 8 times 2 is going to be, 8 times 4 is going to be 32. Okay, and then we are dividing this still by 2 times 2, which is 4. So I've simplified this a little bit using order of operations. I keep it going, and I've got +9 plus or minus. Let's go ahead and subtract inside the square root of 49 over 4. And some of you are like, oh, I kind of like that. I kind of like that number inside the square root than I did the other one. And that is because the square root of 49 is a perfect square. So we don't have to worry about simplifying it. We can actually just do it so that it's 9 plus or minus 7 square root of 4. Okay? So this one is actually a little bit nicer and easier. Now again, I don't mean to confuse you on what we did last time, but we're not multiplying the 9 and the 7. This is not plus or minus 63. This time it is legitimately adding or subtracting. So we make two problems. We do this as 9 plus 7 divided by 4, and x will be equal to 9 minus 7 divided by 4. So I literally add 7 and I subtract it because it's a positive or negative version. We don't know what 49 was, the square root of 49 was. Was it positive 7 or was it negative 7? There's actually two answers. So this is 9 plus 7. We add first. 16 divided by 4, a nice old 4. And then this next one is 9 minus 7 for 2 divided by 4, good old 1/2. Oh, how can we apply this to the real world? Well, let's think of it in terms of a physics problem. We're going to fire something off the top of a building. Now, the building is 60 feet tall, and guess what? Our y-intercept is 60 feet. We can tell it right from the equation. So 60 feet, a little bit below 70. Down here we have 0. Now, the formula is given to us in the form of a trinomial, in the form of t squared, t to the first, and 60, so descending order. So that makes this a, this the b value, and this the c value. And they're kind of big numbers, right? But we get calculators, so let's not freak out here. Have one of those moments where I'm like, no way I can do this. We'll be fine. So let's go ahead, start substituting numbers. The b value is positive 20, but this is a negative here, so that makes it negative 20. Plus or minus, big square root, give yourself plenty of room to put in the b value squared. Again, I'm just substituting. Minus 4. Always using parentheses. I might want to go back and think about parentheses here. I know it's positive, but just good habits. A is negative 16. Whew, and C is 60. Okay. Put it all over. 2 times the A value, negative 16. Now, again, don't freak out. We're going to be able to do this all in the calculator, so why not? Okay? So calculator, well, you know, one thing inside of the square root, but just not the square root. So I'm going to do 20 squared, and then I'm even going to go with the minus sign, and then 4, and then parenthesis, and I got to use negative here, so negative 16, close the parenthesis, parenthesis again, 60, close the parenthesis. That's everything that's in the square root that I was scared about. I press enter, and it's 4,240. Done. All right. Thank you, calculator. So x equals negative 20 plus or minus the square root of 4,240 divided by negative 32. And you're like, Mr. Petrie, how am I going to list all the factors for 4,240? And I'm going to say you're not. You don't have to worry about that because in the question it says to the nearest tenth. So we're not simplifying. We're not putting this into our square root. We're actually going to go back to the calculator and do second square root 4,240. Okay? Oops. Looks like I made a mistake there. 4,000. Oh, geez. 4,240. Okay? And so that works out to be 65.11528. So we're not rounding yet, so let's go 3 digits, and let's go x equals negative 20 plus or minus 65.115. Put that over negative 32. We have x equaling negative 20 plus 65.115 divided by negative 32. Apologies for the coloring. There we go. Okay, so we just take it to our calculator. All right, and we're going to type in negative 20. We're going to add 65.115. Okay, press enter. We want to do the addition first, then we're going to divide by that negative 32 and get our answer in decimal form, negative 1.401. So the next time you do this, you have to subtract the two numbers and then divide by -32 to get 2.6598. Round that answer